Okay. All right. Well, hello and welcome back to the Pop Podcast. I'm happy that you've decided to join us. We're back in 2026. Excited to see you guys. And I'm excited to introduce you to my friend Tom Love. Tom, thank you for being here and a part of this. As a tradition for the Pop Podcast, everyone gets drinks. So I really slaved hard. And what I did is I brewed you some coffee.
Awesome.
I don't know if you like
Speaking
creamer
my language.
or not.
No, I like it
You like
straight
it just
up.
black. Love it. There it is. And
Yeah.
the cup is designed, the Philippines.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
well, there you go. You'll have to rate it at the end of the podcast, as much as you can rate coffee, I guess. Awesome. Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So, Tom, just because we know each other and have been in each other's lives and we've had coffee with one another, I know a lot of your story, and I just know that it's you've been through a lot and around a lot. So I'm interested to hear. Tell me about because I know you didn't grow up Christian. So what was that first moment of accepting Christ, and what did that look like, and how did you get there in your life?
Well, I experienced a lot of what the world has to offer and had the consequences thereof. And so, but I did, I wasn't aware of the gospel and its transforming power until God led me on a journey of being dissatisfied with my life earlier, and then I put my trust in some things that weren't trustworthy, and became disillusioned in things, and then I ended up getting drafted. I was one of the last Americans to be drafted into the military right at the end of the Vietnam War. In fact, I was in the last week of basic training when they called us out one night and turned on the radio, and Nixon, who was the president at that point, said that the peace treaty in Paris had been signed and the war was over, and we weren't going to Vietnam, and so
what was that like in that moment to hear that it was over? Were you anxious? Was that upsetting? Was that like a sigh of relief? What was kind of the thought?
Well, being drafted, I wasn't there because I really wanted to be. But I mean, everybody was happy, that it was over, and definitely we were not, because you never knew. They didn't have to send you to Vietnam, but that was the most likely place you were going to get sent, and so anyway. But the point is, to answer your question, is I was in the military and dissatisfied with my life, and in one sense, it was a hard transition in the sense that my old life was over. I had a totally new life, and my intentions were to develop new friends and new relationships, a new pattern of life, and I was doing it on my own because I didn't like the past. I wanted a different future. But to do it on your own without God, it ends up in the same place. You end up with the same kind of people and doing the same kind of things that you didn't want. And so anyway, through a process, God brought me to the point where actually a colleague of mine was cleaning out his desk, and he gave me a Bible, a New Testament, and I'd never read it before. I had a lot to say about religion, which I was totally ignorant of. But anyway, so I started reading this Bible, and it just clicked. It was like, wow. So anyway, I thought, well, okay, now what do I do? How do I, implement this? So In the military, chaplains are, counselors. That's who you go to when you have a problem. But in this case, I went, to say, hey, I read this book and I know I need to do something, but I don't know what it is, So I went to this military chaplain, and the problem is, I don't know where he stood, but I do know this: he didn't know how to present the gospel to me, and so I remember leaving that meeting, thinking, well, if this guy doesn't know, maybe this isn't really true, or maybe this isn't what I think it is. And so anyway, again, a bit disillusioned about things. And fortunately, I went on a leave shortly after that, went home to Nebraska, and my cousin had just become a Christian, and she took me to her pastor, who did know how to present the gospel. And even though I didn't accept it right at that point, I knew I was on the right track.
Yeah.
And he gave me the name of a couple of churches that were right outside the military base where I was in Oklahoma. And so anyway, I ended up going there, and the church I picked was a very loving and accepting group of people, very warm, and demonstrated the love of Christ to me. And
it's such a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah. Often churches miss that part of being welcoming and inviting and kind of wrapping your arms around anyone that walks through the doors. But it's so important. And I can just imagine you not having accepted Jesus, but kind of contemplating, like, is this real? The chaplain didn't really have answers. Right. And then, well, that guy did at my cousin's church, but just kind of this unsure nature around church and Jesus and whether it was real. And I'm sure to walk into a church that was welcoming, that it was like okay.
Well, especially in the fact in that environment in the early 70s, military people were not respected like they are now.
Yeah.
When people came back from Vietnam, they were accused of being baby killers, and you didn't advertise the fact that you were in the military.
Yeah.
So when you go to a place and people had their arms open and welcoming, and they came and picked me up to take to church. They invited me out to dinner after church, and just it made all the difference. And that was kind of the mark. Jesus said, that they'll know me because of your love, and really that was it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I happened to, it was a church. The pastor was wonderful. He took me under his arm. He did the things that I needed to get me in the Word, to get me involved, to get me, oriented right in the faith. And so did a good job of discipling. And so anyway, it was great experience.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your service. And being a young person, I've only known military members to be respected and honored and valued.
Yeah.
And so to hear that wasn't necessarily the case, especially in time of war, I can see how people would get there. But it's just had never thought about that before. That's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so you're out of the military, you're out of the Army, because you're in the Army, right?
Yes.
What came next for Tom?
Well, I became very involved in that church while I was still in the military, and then when I because of that, my pastor guided me. I just wanted to learn the Word. I was I was like a sponge. It was just, and I couldn't get enough of it. And So he suggested, well, why don't you go study the Bible? So I went to this Bible college in Dallas, Texas, and then I was driving back up to Oklahoma on the weekends because I was heavily involved in working with the youth ministry there. So I would drive back up every weekend, but then I would go to Dallas during the week and studied. And I really, I was involved in ministry, but I didn't go to Bible college because I wanted to be in ministry, that I had this vision to be in ministry. I just wanted to study the Word. I just wanted to know what I believed and the basis for what I believed.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was not my intention to go there. Oh, I think I'm going to go and train to be a pastor or preacher or missionary or whatever.
You just wanted to soak it up.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so anyway, after a couple of years, one of the people, one of the staff of the college had been on a mission trip during the summer to Asia, and he came back and he said, hey, I met this missionary and he's looking for an intern to come and help him. That they had an English teaching ministry and needed someone to come and help teach English. And
so you said yes.
It said, yeah. And so it was a year's internship, and I said yes. And well, people ask me, well, why? What drew you to the mission field? And I'd like to say, oh, because God called me and blah blah blah. No, it's really because I've always had a wanderlust. I wanted to go see the world and be have an adventure and. So
how old were you at the time of this internship?
Oh, let's see. It would have been, I've been 22, 23, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, it happened that it was in Taiwan. I went and worked with my dear friend and mentor, a guy named Alan Bimo. And so anyway, lots of little stories in there, but anyway, the point is that I'd gone for a year. I was going to go back and continue my studies, but during that year, I was invited to speak at a summer camp for missionary kids. Every year they had a camp for all the missionaries' children on the island. So they asked me if I'd come and help out. I think I did music or something, but. Yeah. Anyway, on the bus ride up to this camp, there was a young lady sitting in the seat in front of me on the bus, and I was actually talking to the guy that was sitting next to her. We were talking over the seat, and she was just kind of quiet. Turns out she was not feeling well, and the roads are really windy there, going up in the mountains, and she was car sick, and anyway. So she wasn't saying very much, but I did find out that she was from Nebraska, as am I, and that we actually grew up about 100 miles apart. And she was an intern also over there. And
how did she get connected to this internship?
Well, it's a different internship. I mean, she had come with her church.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So, but she had also been asked to be a part of this camp.
Yeah.
And anyway, so during the week there, or the few days we had there, we got to know each other just basically because we're both from Nebraska and blah, 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 and started talking. Well, anyway, it turns out, that was in July. It turns out that we were engaged in August, went back to the States, were married in September, and we're back in Taiwan in October.
Wow. So you met in July.
Yes.
Come August, so a month of dating.
Yeah.
And you're like,
this is the one. Not really even a whole lot of dating, because she had her responsibilities and I had mine, and we were in different parts of the island.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even like we knew each other when we got married. It really was literally an arranged marriage. God arranged it, and we didn't know what we were getting into, especially her. She didn't know. I can remember the first morning on our honeymoon, I looked over at her and I thought, what have I done to this little woman? She has no idea.
So what inspired that? I mean, you say God arranged it. To move that quickly into marriage in that setting, you guys both just knew? Did you both have God kind of inspire you in that way? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah, we both knew.
Yeah.
Everybody probably thought we were crazy, but it was just this is right. This is where God wants us to go. We both felt it. Obviously there was emotion involved too, but after not really knowing each other that well, we just had this sense of leading and peace, and this is the right thing to do. And we've been married 48 years. To this point. Yeah. We're still together. She's still putting up with me.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you guys go back, newlyweds, and then what were your responsibilities when you went back?
Well, see, that was part of the decision-making process, was the fact that we had some friends that ran an orphanage there, some other missionaries that ran an orphanage there. And they had been there for 5 years and hadn't been home to the U.S. and needed a break. And so they were desperately searching for someone to take over the orphanage while they were gone. So they had asked us, once we had decided to, we had become engaged, they asked us, they said, well, when you come back, would you step in for us?
Yeah.
So anyway, we said, but we need to study Chinese first, So anyway, we came back and we spent 9 months studying Chinese full time, 8 hours a day. And so then, we took their place for a year at the orphanage. We had 32 children, all the way from, we had I can't remember, 3 infants, and all the way up to, probably 12, 13 year old children. And there was Chinese house mothers there that did a lot of the work, but we were basically in charge. So anyway.
Did you enjoy that? Was that a good fit?
At that time, yes. I don't think I didn't get a calling to do it for the rest of my life like our friends had. Yeah. But it was just, again, it was the next natural step. It was the next, Pam likes to say, it was the next yes. It was just, okay, God, this is what you presented to us. This is what you laid before us. Yeah. Okay, we'll step through the door. So, it was really good. It was scary because, I can remember the first time the phone rang and I picked it up and somebody started yakking at me in Chinese and I'm going, help, so. Yeah. Anyway, But that's where I really learned Chinese. Yeah, and children are the best way to learn because they don't care if you mess up. They're not judgmental. Their language is simpler than an adult, and so they're patient and with you. And so it was an ideal environment to learn Chinese. It was a great learning experience. It was, we loved the kids, and
it worked out.
And we actually adopted I processed the adoption for a child that now lives in San Francisco.
Wow.
And we haven't got back together with her yet, but we adopted her to a family in West Virginia, and.
Man, that's really cool. Huh.
Yeah.
Huh. So how long were you at the orphanage?
We were there for a year, and then went back and studied language for another year. Another year, And our first son was born there. And, he's got stamped on his rear end, made in Taiwan. So
there you go. That's awesome. So then you guys study for another year, and then you come back and do what?
Okay, yeah, during that year, that last year language study, we were beginning to pray, okay, well, God, what do you want us to do now?
Yeah.
Okay, we've been here, we've got some experience, we've studied the language, where do you want us to go now? Well, the guy that I originally came to do the internship with ended up in northern Thailand. And there's a group of Chinese people there that came down after World War II and settled in the mountains of northern Thailand, Burma, and Laos. And they were mainly had been soldiers from the Nationalist Army. So when the communists took over, they had to flee, and they were anti-communist. They'd been fighting the communists. So the governments there allowed them to settle in, but they had no really rights as citizens. They were considered refugees. So they just kind of stayed to themselves up in the hills, and they still kind of were like soldiers. And the way that they supported themselves was through the opium trade. That area of the world is called the Golden Triangle, and at that time it was the source of most of the world's opium. And so most of the people were involved in either growing, processing, and selling opium. Yeah. And so, it was a bit of a lawless environment. So we went, my friend had been invited to work there and work to evangelize and plant churches among this people group. Yeah. So anyway, he asked us to come down and take a look and see if we'd be interested in working there. So this, in October of 1979, we went down to Thailand to look at what he was doing and see if that might be where God wanted us to be. And I can remember we had just gotten there. We hadn't even been up to see the work or anything, but there was an urgent plea that had been put out that said, we need volunteers, we need bodies, we need people to come down to the border, because there's hundreds of thousands of people crossing the border from Cambodia, fleeing the killing fields, what was known as the killing fields. And there was it was just mass genocide. If anybody knows the history about that, it was awful. And so I went out there, and I was at this camp the first 2 weeks it was open. So basically it was just a big open field with barbed wire around it, and there were 40,000 people laying in the mud, no shelter. Wow. Most of them hadn't had a real meal in 2 years. They were literally skin and bones, just like you see in the, it was just so the authorities, Thai authorities, wouldn't let us stay in the camps at night. So we stayed outside, and then when we came back in the morning, the first job was to go around and pick up the bodies because of the people who had died overnight, and they had this big pit dug behind the camp to throw the bodies in. So there was just this big mass grave. Yeah. And so anyway, that experience became a real seminal moment in my life, because here I am, I became a Christian and, a happy environment, evangelical, and, praise God. it's all,
Yeah.
wonderful. And all of a sudden, I'm in this environment, and it's like God smacked me upside the head, Hey, this is what the world's about. This is what sin does.
Yeah.
And it was, nothing that I studied in the Bible school prepared me for that experience. Nothing.
Yeah.
It was just, it blew me away. So I had this reckoning with my faith. What is faith all about? What is God's love all about?
Absolutely.
What is sin done to people?
Yeah.
And so, it was a big moment in my life.
Situations like that would cause faith crisis in just about anyone. Of how could a loving God allow this to happen?
Yes.
So is that something you wrestled with in that time? What was kind of the headspace as you're in this experience that just not many people have seen?
Well, I don't know that it wasn't a crisis of faith for me.
Yeah.
And a lot of people it is, and I understand why. It was more like a realigning of my faith, or an expanding of my understanding of why God why he sent his son to die on the cross, because sin and evil have such a destructive power to destroy, kill, steal, and destroy.
As you're looking at victims of the killing fields and this mass grave that every morning you're having to throw bodies into, it really is a life or death issue that you're seeing right in front of your face.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but the thing is I saw, the love of God in the midst of that horrible, horrible situation, that God was there, and mainly in the form of his people.
Yeah.
And, I remember a woman named Margaret who was a missionary in Indonesia, and she had come up from Indonesia to help, volunteer to help in the camp. And she had just had a baby, and she had to leave her baby at home with her husband, had weaned this child. But when she got there, one of the things she did, we were working in this hospital tent, and which only the most desperate cases that even got into. But anyway, because they all needed to be in the hospital. But I remember seeing her with two babies in her arms who were she was nursing them because their mothers had no milk. And to me, that was such a demonstration of the love of God that you would, leave your own child and go to a place and nurse these babies. That wasn't her only responsibility. She was a nurse. But that was one thing she did. So it was things like that. God's people being in the midst of an awful situation and bringing hope and bringing light and being salt. And so.
And it sounds like that just didn't involve evangelism. It didn't involve. It just was just loving on these people that were in desperate need. And that was the love of Jesus.
Absolutely.
It wasn't an eloquent sermon that 40,000 of these people that are suffering all of a sudden profess faith in Jesus. It was, no, I will nurse your children. Like I will help you remove the dead. We will step in here and do what we can. And just come in one of the worst situations imaginable.
So, and there, one of the things, sometimes you meet people who are doing stuff like that, and they're doing it because they think, well, if I help this person, I'm going to get a chance to preach to them or to present the gospel to them, which we want people, we want to present the gospel.
Absolutely.
Because, what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his soul? People have physical needs too, so, I always say that we do not help people because we want them to become Christians. We help them because we're Christians. We present the gospel. We do want them to become Christians. But, hey, it doesn't matter if they are willing to hear the gospel or not. We see people in need. The natural response of the Holy Spirit in your life when you see people in need is to want to respond, is to want to help.
Well, yeah. And that's really goes back to the example that Jesus sets, right? He didn't preach at every needy people that he met.
Right.
He just healed.
Right. Yes.
And of course there was brought up in different situations of sin and belief and faith, and that he was constantly talking with people and wrestling with that. But the first thing that he did, and the thing that we read so much, is that he just healed. Like he stepped in to hurting people and helped.
Yeah.
And so maybe one of the greatest examples of Jesus in the world is people like you, people like that woman nurse that are stepping into horrifying situations and just seeking to heal, seeking to help.
And the thing is that quite often the result is that people begin. They ask the question, well, why would you come? Why would you leave your home and come to a place like this?
Yeah.
So quite often the result is that you have an opportunity to preach the gospel. But our help is not a hook to try to hook people, so that, it. So anyway, it just, it's just a result. It's like when Jesus in Matthew 25 is talking about when he's teaching about the separating the sheep and the goats, and he says, to the sheep he says, enter into my kingdom, and they said, what do we do to deserve this? And he said, well, when I was hungry, you fed me. When I was naked, you clothed me. When I was sick and in prison, you came and visited me. And they said, when did we do that? Yeah. It's natural. It's an outflow of the Holy Spirit in your life. You don't say, and the other people said, well, if we'd have seen you, Jesus, we would have done it, Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, it's a natural outflow of who you are and what you believe.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
So I can imagine in doing that, the double-edged sword is also this, that I'm sure you've got images in your head from that time and that space that are scarring. I mean, that I can't even imagine. That's so outside of even my context and world and understanding, and it is for so many. How did God protect you and shape you even with such a horrifying scene?
Well, that's a good question, because since then I have been involved in in many other similar situations where people were suffering, and for quite a few years I was responding to all kinds of disasters, wars and famines and things like that. So there are those, my kids especially, who think I have PTSD because of it, and I think they may be right. I've never been diagnosed with it or anything like that, but it definitely has an effect on your psyche that you yeah, I mean, that you experience it and as some sort of, I mean, one defense mechanism definitely is that you start building this kind of barrier. If you get too emotionally involved in a situation, all of a sudden it overwhelms you. So you kind of have to build this
a callous
protective. You get calloused in some ways, and I think the way that it's manifested itself in my life is that I have anger issues, and it's mainly because I've seen what abuse of power does to people, and nothing makes me angrier than to see the abuse of power. And I mean, I have another experience which was much later in life, but I was working in a communist country, and one of my national colleagues who I worked with on a daily basis, who was a very strong vocal believer, was taken by the government and murdered. And so that was another defining experience in my life that I have some scars over that.
Yeah.
And, it still makes me angry.
Yeah.
So, there's, if you go into the battle, you may get wounded.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've seen, you put it so well, of that you've seen what sin can do and that abuse of power.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's the killing fields or that situation with the government and your friend, you've seen the divisiveness or the abuse of power that sin can provide. So how has Scripture jumped off the page with that context that I would say most people don't have?
Well, I think the thing that you don't realize is you have a tendency to focus on the negative and how horrible and God, why could you let this happen and stuff like that. But what we don't realize, and what I've experienced, is that God is at work. It's just like Margaret in the refugee camp, or I have another experience that I was at a conference of people who work undercover for the Lord in places that are very dark, that are very dangerous.
Yeah.
They are like the, special forces of God's army. And they are out there and nobody knows.
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
Yeah. And
they cannot advertise. You don't read their newsletters on the internet.
Yeah.
There are both missionaries and mainly local believers who put their life on the line every day for the Lord.
Wow.
And many of them don't make it.
Yeah.
I mean, Christians are the biggest persecuted minority on the planet. And the thing is they're doing incredible things. God has so much going on in this world that you look at the news and you think, oh, the world's going to hell in a handbasket and it's horrible and all these horrible things happening. You don't see what God's doing.
Yeah.
You don't see it. It's
You're not
there.
going to see that on the news.
You're not going to see it on the news. You're not even going to hear it in the church.
Yeah.
Because they can't advertise it.
Yeah.
And I have seen it. I was at a conference in Malta, and it was all people who meet together very clandestinely. And I was sitting in the lobby of the hotel, and I was talking with this guy who was telling me about his life. And he grew up in the Shatila refugee camp in southern Lebanon. And he was a terrorist. He was trained from the time he could understand to hate Jews and to kill Jews and to be a terrorist.
Yeah.
That's what he grew up thinking and believing and doing. And he's giving me his testimony about how he found Jesus and how Jesus healed his heart. And anyway, so he's telling me this, which was amazing to begin with, to hear this story.
Yeah.
But my back was facing the front door in the lobby, and there's a guy coming up behind me, and this guy obviously sees him and responds, and he jumps up and he runs over and embraces this guy.
Huh.
And they're patting each other in the back. It's so good to see you, brother, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Turns out that this guy is a Messianic Jew. He's a Jew that believes in Jesus. Mm-hmm. And here it is, before my eyes, that it's a Muslim who was trained as a terrorist, who hated, I mean, he's not Muslim anymore, but who's embracing this Jew, they hate each other.
Yeah.
And, so, I mean, it was just, I thought, only God could do that. Yeah. Only God. Yeah. The world, the UN is trying to bring peace to the Jews and the Arabs, and it didn't happen,
Uh-huh.
And God did this.
Wow.
And that's the transforming power of the gospel. And I mean, that was another seminal moment in my life, just seeing that before my eyes.
Yeah.
And
it's such an age-old battle.
Yeah.
That God would bring.
Right.
No matter the history, no matter the situation, no matter the actions, no matter the consequences, no matter what they were going through, that moment, that embrace.
But that's the point is that what people don't realize is that's happening every day, everywhere. Yeah. Those little things. And you have no idea what God's doing.
Yeah.
It's just, it is so amazing. Yeah.
And we are in such a culture that wants us to be fearful. It wants us to be negative.
Absolutely.
Because then we'll keep tuning in.
Yeah.
Because we're scared. And we want the newest information, right?
And fearful people are easy to control, too.
Exactly. So we have a culture in America, I think especially, that is pushing us to be fearful about X, Y, and Z.
Absolutely.
No matter what topic, you can be fearful about it. And then we translate that to God. That, he has to be coming soon because we're losing ground. Mm-hmm. Or he's not working in the world like I thought. Like, look at all these horrible things that are happening. We have more knowledge about negative things happening in the world than ever before.
Absolutely.
But the news is never going to talk about those moments. It's never going to talk about the positive things. It's never going to talk about the work that God is doing, because if it did, we wouldn't tune in as much.
I read a book that it's called The Rise of Christianity. And it's written by a professor. He was at the University of Washington. I'm not sure where he is now, but anyway, he did he's a religious sociologist.
Okay.
And he did his thesis on what was it that caused this little band of believers in Palestine to, within 300 years, caused the Emperor Constantine of Rome to declare Christianity the religion of the Roman Empire. What were the social dynamics that caused that? How did that happen?
Yeah.
And so anyway, through his study, he comes up with some very interesting things. One was that Jesus uplifted women, and that up until that time, every culture on earth was oppressive to women, and that
very much so.
That Christianity valued women.
Yeah.
And that was one, but the one another one, there were several social dynamics, but that was one of them. The other one was that during that time there were several plagues that happened, and people were just dying like flies.
Yeah.
And the thing is people were so afraid, talking about fear, were so afraid that when their family members got sick, they would just take them out and put them in the streets because they were afraid of dying themselves.
Yeah.
And the Christians would come along and take these people and take them into their own homes at the risk of their own lives. Yeah. And many of them did die. Many of them did get sick and die.
Yeah.
But they had such compassion on people that it just, it was just a transformative thing in that culture. So that, and what he attributed that to was the theology that Christians are not afraid to die.
Yeah.
That the worst thing that can happen to a Christian is not to die.
Yeah.
That's not the worst thing that can happen to us is to die.
Yeah.
So, that's just an interesting finding that he found out through his research that, people in the world today, why are you afraid? What's the worst thing that can happen to you? That you die.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to die.
Yeah.
Satan took Jesus to the top of the temple and told him to jump. He didn't. We don't have a death wish.
Yeah.
But what does the Bible say? It says to live as Christ, to die as gain.
Yeah.
We have something to look forward to. We have no fear of death.
Yeah.
Oh, death, where is your sting? Where is your victory?
Yeah. So we'll take a suffering, sick person in to nurse them back to health, to bring them back because we're not afraid.
That's
and we
right.
know that our Bible, our Lord, wants us to do that.
That's right. Exactly right.
Man. So tell me about, just because I know you've done so much schooling on language, on agriculture, especially like on so much.
I have 9 years of post-high school education.
Yeah.
But I only have one degree. I only have one bachelor's degree.
Well, there you go. So I know a part of the story coming up is stepping into that you said yes to be in, what was it, northern Taiwan?
Northern Thailand.
Yeah. To
Working
be a
among
part
Chinese.
of the people amongst the opium, the Golden Triangle opium fields. So tell me a little bit about agriculture and that crew. I know you've got a lot of stories from that section of time.
Yeah. Well, most, the people we were working with, again, we were in Thailand, but we were working with Chinese-speaking people who were refugees, who didn't have any civil rights because they were refugees.
Yeah.
The government allowed them to be there because back in that time, the fear was communism. Yeah. That the communists were going to invade and that, the Southeast Asia would fall to the communists. And Thailand was kind of a bastion of, freedom. They didn't. So what they did was they allowed these people to live up there because they had been trained soldiers fighting communists up in China. And so when they moved down after World War II, they lived there and they were a natural buffer between Thailand and the communists.
Yeah.
And so the way that they made their living was through the opium trade. They either grew it, processed it, or sold it. And they had their own little armies and, protecting their interests. And, everybody was happy. And, of course, people were getting paid off. And so everybody was happy, But, these people lived up in the mountains in these very primitive, very poor villages. They grew opium and, they weren't the ones that made all the money. The traffickers were, but these people basically had a subsistence living, and so this is the environment we went in to do evangelism and church planting.
Okay.
So when we were there, again, I had no intentions when I went there. I had no intentions of doing anything but preach the gospel.
Yeah.
Well, because of the things that we've discussed here, I gained a different perspective about, what God wanted us to do. And, being there, you can get up and you can preach about, Christians shouldn't be planting opium and how bad it is and that sort of thing. But to say that and not do anything about it, not help people to find other ways of making a living, you're just kind of wasting your breath.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got involved. I grew up in an agricultural place, but I hadn't studied agriculture, but we started getting involved with people because that's what their life was.
Yeah.
And we started doing agriculture projects, and it turned out that there's a native variety of peaches that grows there. They're almost inedible, but they're peaches.
Yeah.
And we basically just got this scion wood from with good peaches, and we taught people how to graft these good varieties onto the native peaches.
Yeah.
And anyway, so they started doing that, and I can remember we went up there and started working in this little valley, and there were 5 believers in this village who wanted to stop growing opium and because of their faith, and do something else. So we taught them, and there were 80 families in that village, and they, everybody else is saying, it'll never work. You guys are crazy, and blah blah blah. So, we went down there with them and camped out down this, using machetes and slashed down the jungle, and we helped get this thing started. And so anyway, I can remember one story about my colleague had figured out that maybe that growing carrots would be a good thing to start with. So anyway, he got them carrot seed, and they grew all these carrots, and they grew them up, and pretty much they had these big, beautiful, sweet carrots, and they dug them up, put them in the gunny sacks, and threw them up on top of the bus, and went to town to the market and put them out on the ground to sell. And they didn't sell enough to get bus fare to go back home.
Wow.
So absolutely, they were so discouraged, and we did this for God, and nothing became of it, But anyway, so my friend went up there to encourage him and said, "No, look, you're doing this for the Lord. He's gonna provide." So he says, "I'll come back next week, and you dig up your carrots, and we'll load them in my truck, and we'll take them to town and sell them to the big market." So anyway, in the meantime, he goes back to town, and he goes all over to try to sell those carrots, try to find somebody who would buy them. Totally struck out. Nobody wanted them. So then he decided, well, maybe I better pray about this. God, help!
Yes.
I got myself into something. Now I don't know what to do
and
about it.
Now he's promised those families,
exactly.
Hey, God's going to come through here. And he's like, oh, yeah.
So anyway, he goes up on the appointed day. They load up the carrots. And it had 3,000 pounds of carrots.
Wow.
So they head to town. They go to the main vegetable market there. And literally, they just pulled into a parking place.
Yeah.
Trucks loaded up with carrots.
Wow.
And this guy comes running across the parking lot, and he says, "What do you got in that truck?" And he says, "Well, carrots." He says, "Carrots." He says, "I've been looking all over for carrots. Wow. I can't find any," because, at that time, the Thais didn't even know what carrots were. It was a new crop. And he said, "I have this contract with the tourist hotels down in Bangkok, and they want carrots."
Wow.
And he said, "I'll buy them all."
Wow.
And so, it was just like, God came through at the right time.
Yeah. So, and what a message to those families, right?
Yes.
Here it is.
Well, the interesting thing is about it now is when we used to go up to that village, they were so poor that we'd always bring our own food from town.
Yeah.
Because we didn't want to eat their food, simply because they couldn't really spare it.
Yeah.
So anyway, it turned out that after a period of time, and it's a long story how it all happened, but that place produces so many vegetables now that they cannot sell them all.
Wow.
And we would go to that village and come back, and the back of our truck would be full of vegetables that they just gave to us. They said, "Here, take these. We can't get rid of them." Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and you go down to that valley now, and it's just fruit trees and rows of these beautiful vegetables and sprinklers running, and just it's it's just been transformed. And now, not only those 5 families not grow opium and grow that, but all 80 families in that village, not a single one grows opium anymore.
They're all in that valley working that. Yeah.
That's right.
Man. And how beautiful, because I think the temptation in American culture can be like, well, how much money do we need to throw at them, right? Like, can't we just support them as a family?
Right.
Can't we sponsor them? And those things aren't bad, right? Like, that is needed around the world. But what you did what God did through you was uplift an entire town of people to go from in need to abundance through hard work and trusting in God. Faith.
Yes.
That even though, like, carrots were something that Thais didn't know what it was, they didn't want it, it was weird, no thank you, but that whole truck would be sold, and I'm sure many trucks thereafter, with that gentleman in those tourist hotels that were in need.
Well, the interesting thing, the aspect of this story is that just down the road, about 5 kilometers away, there was another village.
Yeah.
And the U.S. government had a project there that they were supporting. It was called the King's Project because it was under the patronage of the King of Thailand. And they invested literally millions of dollars because the U.S. government wanted to stop opium production.
Yeah.
That was the goal.
Yeah.
And so they supported this project to the tune of millions of dollars, and it was beautiful. You went there, and it was just like the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
But they paid the villagers to do it. We had no money. I mean, we did, we started with basically teaching how to do grafting on a native fruit tree. And that, we started there. We did the work with them. We went down and worked with the villagers, and they did it themselves. It's about ownership.
Yeah.
And they owned it. This one over here, it was the King's Project.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is they both started about the same time. I think the King's Project was a little older, but anyway, one day the head of the King's Project is driving through our village on his way to his project.
Uh-huh.
And it just so happened that the villagers are coming up with baskets on their back and full of peaches.
Yeah.
And he stops and he looks at it and he says, "Where did you get those?" He says, "Well, out of our orchards." I said, "What? You got orchards?" He said, "Yeah." And he said, "How did you do that?" They took him down there. He says, "Show me." So he took him down there and he was just amazed. "How did you do this?" He said, "Well, our preacher helped us." And so anyway, long story short, they started working. I mean, we had no resources to be able to really help them. But the King's Project basically moved over here.
Wow.
So they started investing, and they're the ones who set up the marketing, and there were literally refrigerated trucks going into that village, practically every day to take vegetables to market. And, you know, we didn't have the resources to do that.
Yeah.
So it's just, you know, and the difference is they did it themselves, and they did it. Their motivation was completely different, something that the U.S. government could never get, and that was their hearts were changed.
Yeah.
They knew God didn't want them to grow up him anymore, and they were motivated to be obedient to God.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't policy and money.
It wasn't money.
It was hearts that were changed.
That's right.
Jesus.
That's right. Exactly.
And then the government comes over and brings the money and the policy.
That's right.
It just goes to
That's
a whole nother
exactly right.
But it has to start with a changed people.
That's right.
And so the American way is we've got money. Let's throw it at this.
Well, you know, the whole, you know, there's a whole industry, development industry, NGOs that go throughout the world to help people and stuff. But they lack that one thing.
Yeah.
You know, the secular ones, they lack that one thing. That they, you know, the change of heart is what, because, you know, materialists look at the world like, okay, we have material resources, and they look, the first thing they do when they go in to start a project is they do a needs assessment.
Yeah.
So what do you need? Well, when you ask someone what they need, it means I'm going to give it to you.
Yeah.
And so, we need this and we need that, and they need this and that, and it's always material. It's always hey, if we give these people money or we give these people this kind of help, it'll solve their problems.
Yeah.
But the thing is resources. The main resource that people have is here. You know, we were created in the image of God, and one of the things about God's nature is creativity.
Yeah.
And we have that creative spark in us. That's what makes us human. That's what makes us in the likeness of God, is that we can dream dreams and see visions. And our culture, this is one of the things that we were blessed with in our culture, is that when, you know, I mean, when you're a little kid, the question you're most often asked is, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you can say, in our culture, opportunities are there. You can literally say anything you want. You can say, I want to be a rocket scientist, or I want to be, you know, a brain surgeon, or I want to be a fireman, or a plumber. It doesn't matter. But if you dream it and you believe it and you work hard enough, you're likely to achieve it. You're not guaranteed to achieve it, but you're likely to achieve it. The possibility exists.
It's there.
Well, my experience working in the third world with people who have grown up in poverty is they don't aspire. Their culture does not teach them that there are opportunities out there. You have resources in your mind and in your heart that God put there that you can use to create. And so when we went into a village, and this is what we learned, it's not like we discovered something, but that we did a resource assessment. It's called asset-based community development, ABCD.
Yeah.
That we don't look at what you don't have.
Yeah.
We look at what you do have. What has God given you that you can use? You have your creativity in your mind.
Yeah.
You have time. You have land.
Yeah.
You have water.
Yeah.
You have.
So rather than asking what do you need, you're asking what do you have?
What do you have that you can use that God's given you?
Yeah. Wow. I mean, we could all be asking ourselves that.
Yes.
Rather than focusing on what do I not have that I need to do what God wants me to do.
That's right.
Saying, what do I have? What has He given to me, either physically or inside of my chest.
Exactly.
What has he given to me? What do I have? What are the resources that I already have that then I can creatively use in the world?
Yes.
And even if it's not much compared to my neighbor across the street, it's still something. And it was given to me.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That translates even more than just poverty and these different agriculture. That's a principle we can carry with us.
The interesting thing about poverty is that when you're a materialist, when you think that all that exists is what is material, what I can see, what I can touch, what I can look under a microscope. Mm-hmm. When you believe that, that's all you have. That's the only resource you have.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, you throw money at it. You throw material things at it, at the problem. Whereas the problem, we believe, is in the heart of man and our sinful nature. So quite often poverty is a spiritual problem. So anyway, you look at the most. So mostly poverty is defined in material terms as a lack of resources.
Yeah.
It's a lack of resources. Do you know some of the richest countries in the world have no resources? Japan, Singapore. I mean, you can name any number of places that they're overpopulated and they lack resources. Yeah. And they're some of the wealthiest countries in the world.
Yeah.
Some of the poorest countries in the world, they're not overpopulated and they don't lack resources. Like Laos, for example, where we worked.
Yeah.
They have water, they have land, they have beautiful, they just have so many resources and they don't have a big population. And yet they're poor.
Yeah.
What?
It's like, how? How does this work?
The definition of poverty doesn't work in those cases. And so the ultimate resource is here, is what God gave us.
Yeah, the gifting.
And not only that, but from the very beginning, he said, I have given you creation. I have wrapped it. I have enveloped all kinds of mysteries into that creation. And he gave man the mandate, the original creation mandate. He said, develop it, open it up,
make it,
see what's in there. Yeah. What can you do with it, with your creativity and your mind that I gave you? What can you do with it?
Yeah. What can you create with what I've given you?
Yes.
Oh, so then that question of not what do you need, but what do you have is really a biblical one.
Absolutely. Goes back to the very first verses of Genesis.
Wow. So, thank you, Tom. Again, I think it speaks to so much more than just the experiences that you had, the situations that you stepped into, but like we said, that's a biblical question. What do you have? Thank you so much for joining me, for being a part of this.
My pleasure.
We're gonna have you back on because I feel like you told us like just a quarter of the stories and scenarios that you've got and that you've been through. So, thank you.
Yeah, I'm writing a memoir, and the title is The Very Extraordinary Life of a Very Ordinary Man.
I love that.
I have nothing that anybody would be attracted to, anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Nothing. I just serve a very extraordinary God.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, I consider this part one. And we'll have to put in some more time with this.
Sounds good.
That is awesome.
Sounds good.
And if you attend Cold Springs Church here in Northern California, you got to talk to Tom. You got to seek out some advice and some stories. This is great. So you got coffee as your drink. What out of a -10 to a +10 with 0 in the middle, Where is coffee in Tom Love's book?
Well, I'm not so much anymore, but I used to be very much a coffee snob. I would source out because I traveled so much.
Yes,
I have had
coffee
I have
all over
had
the world.
I have had coffee in the source of coffee, Ethiopia.
Yes.
In a coffee ceremony they have, and how they roast it right in front of your eyes, and So I've been kind of a coffee snob. And I would rate this cup of coffee probably a medium, but
boom, there you go. Hey, that's all right. Keurig as a medium, that's great. Well, again, thank you, Tom, for joining us, and thank you for watching the Pop Podcast. We'll be back. We post each week. I'm going to stop saying that we post on Wednesdays because usually I don't actually get it out till Thursdays. So we post every week. How about that? So catch you next week for the Pop Podcast. We are back in the new year. 1 episode a week will be coming your way on YouTube, Spotify, all those things. So send it to someone that needs to hear stories like this. We love you guys, and we will see you next week. See ya.
I would like to recommend